This was one of the first questions in the movie. Have you ever had to work a job where you had to be in your underwear, or you had to work in your underwear?
Um, um, that is a real, I have not. No, I haven't. No? Yes, I have.
All right, so thanks so much for joining me today. I've got Jake Jarvi, the writer and director of Haunt Season, which is coming to theaters on October 4th, 2024, and then video on demand on October 8th, 2024. Just in time for Halloween, just in time for spooky season. We have an indie spooky movie about a haunted house. It was filmed in a real life haunted house with plenty of great practical effects, some fun scenes, and some violent scenes also. I'm excited to talk to you, and thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course. So you wrote this. Who, like, what are the carnies? I don't know what haunted house worker hurts you that made you want to write this story?
No, actually, the love of a haunted house worker made me want to do this. Actually, the guy who owns the haunted house that we shot in, Realm of Terror, his name's Steve. And I worked with Steve on a couple music video projects through my YouTube job. And one day after one of those, he was hanging around. He's like, "You like movies? I like movies. We should make a movie." And I was
That's
like,
awesome. That's perfect.
"Cool."
Yeah.
And so like I love the haunted house movie genre, especially like any movie set around Halloween is just comfort food for me. And then the haunted house on top of it is like super fun. So the fact that he was like opening his doors for us was incredible.
That's awesome. And so I'm just curious, like it feels like you have a limited time to film this, right? Because you have to be in a working haunted house. Did you film this like after Halloween was over, or did you just like film it during the day? How did you kind of manage that film schedule? Because you probably have what, like a month at the most, but I don't know
Well,
how long they're open for.
so we actually did a kind of like a 3 month thing with them, where in order to, because they have to be in their building, rebuilding, changing the haunted house for this year, doing all of their own prep work for the year. But we also would come in like every weekend, starting in August, get all the haunted house interiors, all the haunted house stuff. Then once we hit October, still filming, we went and got all the exteriors in real October, pumpkin patches, the haunt when it's open, like seeing all in full glory. And then, so it was actually a 3 month process of actually getting the interiors when they weren't open, before they were open. And then they were actually shooting with us while they were open. And everybody who was working on the movie and working on the haunt was kind of beyond exhausted by the end of it, but they put up with us very nicely.
That's awesome. So are some of the scenes with the external views, are those actual people that are waiting to go into the haunted house? You just kind of film as people were waiting in line, or were that like special setups with, extras and things like that so you could control a little better?
Well, so there's two answers to that. One is that there's certain sections where you kind of see just people milling around waiting in line, like the haunt scare actors running around on their hands and knees, like intimidating people and everything. That's all just while the haunt is actually open, people waiting for the haunt. And then we crafted our own like line, like just from the door of the haunted house all the way down. We were able to get a bunch of very nice people out with the promise of friendship and pizza, and they lined up for us for one night. We shot every line scene, of which there were many, in one night.
Wow.
And Yeah, it went beautifully actually, and the weather was really nice for us, which is surprising. Chicago in October.
I mean, that seems like a good request. You seem like a nice person, so friendship seems good. I hope it was good pizza too, because that seems like plenty of payment.
Well, I tried to sweeten the pot. I was like, I shot it on my birthday. I was like, a guy's birthday present. I really need probably about 50 to 60 people just to volunteer their night. We can't start until 8 p.m. and I need you until 4 a.m. Anybody who's good, you
Wow.
know?
So you pulled in all the stops for this to make this
Yeah,
movie. I love it.
absolutely.
And this was your first feature, right? This is your first. I mean, you've been in, behind the camera for YouTube and music videos. Is this your first feature film that you made?
Yeah, this is my first feature film that I wrote and directed. Finally. I've been waiting forever, dude. I'm so excited. I'm like this is just I've been waiting so long for this to happen, and the fact that it's a Halloween haunted house movie that I finally got to make is just top of the list.
That's awesome. And hey, you know what? It sounds like you're doing what you love, right? If you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. So it sounds like
That's
even
what
though it
they
was
say.
exhausting, this is fantastic.
That's what they say. But if you're working YouTube during the day and making the movie at night, it still feels a little like work, even though you love it.
Yeah, it could be a little bit overwhelming. Just, I understand, the YouTube aspect. I understand how busy that life can be. So I can't imagine doing this and then going and doing something else all night. I feel like, I don't know, my eyes would be bloodshot. Maybe you could just be an extra because your eyes are going to be bloodshot. You're going to look haggard. You'll be already in costume for it.
Yeah, my wife and I, well, she also was a producer on the movie and she did craft services and she did catering and she did unit production managing and she did like all a bunch of stuff on this movie. We did do two little cameos in it. One on my birthday that night, where we're the first couple in line on the first night of the haunted house. And then we also run through the haunted house and get scared by the actors.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you
Yeah,
might as well, right? Like,
got
pad
it.
those IMDb stats, right?
Yeah, you got it, man. You got to get in there.
So, other than you being obviously a star of the film, where did you find the rest of the actors in there? Had you worked with them before? Was it just like a normal casting call? Like, how did you find like the cast of misfits and characters for this film?
For sure. So it started out with my YouTube buddies, right? So I made a web series with this guy named Craig Benzine, who is WheezyWaiter on YouTube, and he's been on YouTube for, I don't know, 15 years now. I mean, for like a really long time. And um he was the first one to be like, if you are going to make a movie, I will also put money and my name behind it. And I was like, dude,
That's awesome.
incredible.
That's
And then
awesome.
the guy that I work for, Rob Scallon, he was just right behind him. He was like, wait, what? Yes, let's do it. And so they both like jumped in. They both wanted to die in the movie. They were like, we can get you the money and the time to do this if you let us die in it. And so they were the first ones to kind of like start the fundraiser. And then the rest of the cast we just found off casting calls. Like we just sent out a casting call. We were originally non-union. We're able to raise enough money to become a union production, which was incredible. And then just found the best people in Chicago and the surrounding areas that we could. And we just got so lucky. Everybody is so amazing in this movie. Like we found Sarah Elizabeth right here. She the main girl on the poster, she had hardly done anything before. She was still in school while we were making this. Like she just kills it and she screams like crazy.
Yeah,
Like the whole thing.
that's her big shtick. I love it. Like, yeah, that it's a horror movie when she starts off with like, how can you scream? How long can you scream for? And it's a fantastic one.
Yeah, it's incredible. I asked her how she does it. And she's like, never use your throat. You got to scream from the diaphragm. She's a singer. So
Ah, sounds like she could also be like a metal vocalist too. She's got multiple career options.
yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned, your bosses were involved. They both wanted to die. Speaking of killing your bosses, I loved all the practical effects in this movie. I assume that was something that you set forth, from the start, being a horror fan, being someone who wanted to make a haunted house. But
Oh
what
yeah.
was it like, kind of seeing all those prosthetics and working with the special effects artists in this?
I wanted to do it forever, dude. I'm okay in After Effects and I can do a little bit of like digital touch-ups and stuff, but like to actually pull off the gore effects in this, I wanted it to be as practical as the stuff from, the classic stuff. So I got a guy named Corey Ruby and a guy named Kyle Williamson, and they combined to make all the gore effects in the movie. And because of their schedules, because they are always working on all sorts of movies and TV shows and so I had to shoot all of the gore effects right up front in the first like 2 weeks of the shoot. We started with the hardest stuff.
Oh
And
wow.
so we would spend an entire day, I would say the chainsaw arm gag or the chainsaw wall gag, the chainsaw gags. They each took an entire day to set up, execute, and I mean that was just like it's like a quarter of a page and your whole day is shot. And then like once we got into off of the gore effects, like they were so exciting once they were happening. We only had one shot with each of them. But like once they were all said and done, I was like, it was a breath of fresh air to get into like dialogue scenes.
I imagine you had 2 weeks of gore and then maybe like a couple days of therapy and then dialogue just to cleanse
Exactly. It was
yourself of
like
all that.
total decompression. You get to see people emote instead of just scream and bleed.
That's awesome. No, that sounds fun. I do like that you focus on practical though. Like you said, you can do some stuff in After Effects and things like that, but for a horror movie, for gore, you really want everything to look practical, so it doesn't distract.
Well, for those effects too, with the practical effects, most of them at least were like a couple of the big signature shots. I was marrying practical with real elements. So like they would build the section that we were going to cut into and that portion of it and make it bleed and make it gnarly and everything. And then I would take the actor like with a plate shot and everything and kind of composite it into the real life action as well. Like Robert Rodriguez does that all the time. And so like I was just like I'm from the, Rebel Without a Crew school of Rodriguez styling. So to take the live action actor and then marry them to a physical element really sells the gag.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So I know we have limited time. I'm going to switch to a lightning round, just lightweight questions about the film. Want to see how your personal experiences maps things in the movie. Feel free to skip any of them. I won't be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
Okay.
First question: have you ever worked in a haunted house?
No, I'm
Oh,
too scared.
I mean, I think you kind of have to now, right? Like you've seen how it works. You got to go in there. What was the last haunted house you went to?
Last haunted house I went to was Realm of Terror. I went there right when they were closing up last year, and they're about to open up again this year, and I'll be going again. And I'm going to Horror Nights this year, but the very last one was the one that I shot the movie in last year.
That's awesome. A little reunion. It'll be perfect. Are you gonna take the whole crew with you when you go? So it'll be just like back in the old days?
We did that right after we wrapped. All the actors and I went through the real live haunted house, and they could not believe what it was like when it was really open.
That's awesome. What are you going for as Halloween this year?
I'm probably going as a skeleton, although my daughter has requested that I be a rainbow daddy cat. So I might be a rainbow daddy cat. It depends on where her costume lands, you know?
Those are all words that I think I know, but I don't know the combination of them. I will Google it later, and I'll probably put search safe on just to be sure. But
Yeah, I haven't Googled it either, and I don't think I'm going to, but I probably will make a pretty good one.
so in all the deaths in this movie, what would I guess if you had to choose one, which would be your preferred death?
Oh, like to die by?
Yeah,
I would say, oh boy, I'm gonna go with hedge trimmer beheading. I feel like it's the fastest out of all the things that happen to people in this movie. That would be the fastest way to go.
that's very practical. And the last
I
question.
still don't want it to happen. I don't want to die that way.
I know, but if you had to pick one, that's the one to go. And the last question. This was one of the first questions in the movie. Have you ever had to work a job where you had to be in your underwear, or you had to work in your underwear?
Um, um, that is a real, I have not. No, I haven't. No. Yes, I have. Okay, okay. Even worse, I had to be completely pantsless. So I was a fraternity pledge in the movie Old School back in 2003. And there's a scene where all the frat boys are lined up and they have to drop their pants and throw a cinder block off the roof. And so I was it like we did that in that scene. We each had like a little like what's it called? Like a pouch that kind of conceals anything. But like we were all standing there on the campus of UCLA, pants down.
Wow, you know what? I'm sure there are lots of fraternity people that have done that too, but that's a pretty good IMDb credit. I hope it was like pantsless fraternity pledge was like your IMDb credit because that's fantastic.
No, they just call me Jarvi. They actually just called me by my last name in it.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, I love that. That's perfect. And hey, you know what? Shows what you have to do to get into this industry. So there you
Yeah,
go.
whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
So make sure go back, get the 4K version, and zoom in to make sure you can see Jarvi's like big cameo. But after you do that, make sure to check out Haunt Season coming to theaters on October 4th, 2024, and on demand on October 8th, 2024. This is Jake Jarvi, the writer and director. Thank you so much for your time. Oh, also in star, writer, director, and small star. Thank you so much for your time.